Hi, and welcome to today's video on Sprint Review. The objectives of this video are to discuss what is a sprint review and when is it held, what happens in a sprint review meeting template, sprint review meeting expected outcome, how long is a sprint review, how to prepare for sprint review, and the top 5 tips for holding a sprint review meeting. So let's go ahead and begin. So what is a sprint review meeting and when is it held? A sprint review is an informal meeting that the Agile Scrum team attends at the end of a software development sprint. The entire Scrum team and the key stakeholders are invited by the product owner. The purpose of the sprint review is to inspect the outcome of the sprint and determine future adaptations. The sprint review serves to optimize value and to create transparency between the Scrum team and stakeholders over the product backlog and the product increment. The Scrum team presents the results of their work to the key stakeholders, and progress towards the product goal is discussed. During the event, the Scrum team and stakeholders review what was accomplished in the sprint and what has changed in their environment. Based on this information, attendees collaborate on what to do next. The product backlog may also be adjusted to meet new opportunities. The sprint review is a working session, and the Scrum team should avoid limiting it to a presentation. The sprint review is the second to last event in the sprint and is time boxed for a maximum of 4 hours for a 1-month sprint. And for shorter sprints, the event is usually shorter. So what happens in a sprint review? Well, we can take this according to the Scrum Guide itself. And as you see listed here, this is what happens. First, the attendees include the Scrum team and the key stakeholders, and they're invited by the product owner, as explained on the previous slide. The product owner then goes to explain what the product backlog items that have been done are and what has not been done. The development team discusses what went well during the sprint, what problems it ran into, and how those problems were solved. The development team demonstrates the work that's been done and answers questions about the increment. The product owner discusses the product backlog as it stands, and he or she projects likely target and delivery dates based on the progress to date if needed. The entire group collaborates on what to do next so that the sprint review provides valuable input to subsequent sprint planning. Everybody reviews how the marketplace or potential use of the product might have changed and what is the most valuable thing to do next. And there's a review of the timeline, budget, potential capabilities, and marketplace for the next anticipated releases of functionality or capability of the product. The sprint review meeting template. Here is a good generic template that you can use. There's many ways of conducting a sprint review, but the meeting agenda that's shown here pretty much outlines the activities of a typical sprint review. Start is the sprint review meeting starts. Next, welcome to the stakeholders. The product owner welcomes the stakeholders to attend the review. Next, presents the review agenda. The product owner presents the agenda for the sprint review. Present product increments. The development team presents the product demo that they have implemented in the sprint. Give feedback. The product owner asks the stakeholders for feedback regarding the product that has been delivered. Present product backlog. The product owner presents the top of the product backlog to the stakeholders to get feedback for the upcoming sprints and solicit feedback from the stakeholders related to the backlog, and then the meeting ends. Sprint review meeting expected outcomes. The expected outcomes from a sprint review meeting are shown on this screen. First, user stories accepted by the product owner. Second, feedback noted by the Scrum team. Third, new items get added to the product backlog. Fourth, reprioritization of the product backlog. And fifth, product backlog is ready for the next sprint. So how long is a sprint review? Well, a sprint review may last up to 4 hours for a 4-week sprint. The general rule is that the sprint review should take no more than 1 hour per week of sprint duration. So as you can see on this page here, the table illustrates the rule. If you have a 1-week sprint, you should have a 1-hour sprint review. If you have a 2-week sprint, you should have a 2-hour sprint review. 3 weeks, 3 hours, 4 weeks, 4 hours. So how to prepare for a sprint review? Well, it pays to have the following prepared for the sprint review. The Scrum team self-organizes this and is helped by the Scrum Master. You should have a refined product backlog. You should have a sprint goal, which includes the progress made and the known work remaining. You should have the latest product increment, including verified facilities required to inspect and review it. You should have the definitions of done. You should have the product backlog items that have been done and what has not been done. You should have a log of what went well during the sprint, what challenges the team ran into, and how those challenges were addressed or solved. You should have the learnings and inspections from the marketplace. You should have desired projections. You should have assessment of progress towards completing projected work by the product owner. You should have past performance of the development team and the projected capacity of the development team for the next sprint. So here are 5 top tips for holding a sprint review meeting. First, keep a fixed schedule for the sprint review meeting. The sprint review meeting is a time for delivery. It's the time when the product will be evaluated. It's very important that the whole Scrum team is informed prior to the schedule of the meeting. So the best practice is to schedule this meeting at the start of the sprint itself. That way, the Scrum team is focused on completing the work on time and reviews and keeps everything ready for the meeting to occur. Second, get the team ready for the demonstration. Make sure all your equipment, your product details, required credentials, required software, etc. are ready prior to the meeting. Make sure the team members are aware of who is speaking when during the demonstration. Who will be leading the demonstration? Who will be answering questions? Who will be noting down the feedback? Getting the team ready beforehand will not only save time, but it also is a good impression that the team looks like they're more confident about the product that they are building. 3, keep the meeting time boxed. Keep a check on the clock and make sure the meeting goes on time. The best way to manage is to allocate time to each agenda item and have particular speakers to talk during each agenda item. This way, the speakers are already aware of the allocated time. 4, keep separate time allocated to product backlog refinement activity. It's important to get the product backlog ready by the end of this meeting. So right after this meeting, the next sprint should start, and a refined product backlog is always required to start the next sprint. And 5th, record the meeting and share the minutes of the meeting, which is MOM. As this being an important activity with any meeting, it's important that the sprint review meeting is also logged. So making the whole meeting recorded or written down, it's really important then to also share the meeting minutes with all the participants involved. There's a great fact sheet about sprint reviews that I'll include in the link to the description of this video. If you're not sure about who the key resources are in a Scrum team, you can see my video on what is Scrum and what is a Scrum Master for more details. And if you want to know the difference between the sprint review and the sprint retrospective, see my video on what is a sprint retrospective. Now, if you like this video on the sprint review, go ahead and smash the like button. And if you want to see more videos on project management, go ahead and subscribe to my channel because I upload them weekly. Thank you.